Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience. A little less than a year ago I put out a video that it was basically a recommendation of CDs that I thought sounded really good that I recommended to listen to with your headphones. And not all CDs are recorded the same. Some sound really, really good, some not so good. So what I'm trying to do is help you out a little bit here and recommend some CDs that over time I've found out are recorded really well or just happen to sound really good with headphones. And I've got a collection of about, I don't know, maybe 500 or 600 CDs, and that's primarily what I listen to, so I thought I'd pick out a few of my favorites and do a little video. And like I said, about a year ago, I recommended about 40 CDs that I really liked, and tonight I picked out another 40 or so, 45, but I figured that was going to be too long for one video, so I decided to narrow it down to about 20 for tonight's video. So this is going to be 20 CDs, and if I repeated any from my last video, I apologize, and some may be from the same groups, the same artists, but different CDs. But anyway, I think everything new on this list is new, so I'm gonna get at it here. The first CD on my list is this is Peter Gabriel, and I forget the name of this one, Security. This was one of his early releases. I mean, this has songs on it like Shock the Monkey. I'm sure you remember that from, I think that's all the way back in the early 80s. But anyway, Peter Gabriel is just an outstanding musician and has always strived to make his recording sound as good as he can. So even though this is, like 40 years old now, still a very good sounding CD. This one here, this is The Long Run from the Eagles, and once again, I mean, I think this one's from the 70s, and been around a long time, but I was listening to this the other day and noticed just how good it does sound, the clarity, the detail, all that. Excellent sounding CD. Here's another one. This is by Tool, and I'm not sure about the pronunciation. Lateralis, I think that's how it's pronounced. Anyway, that's a tough one. Tool's kind of a strange band, but everything I've heard from them has been recorded really well, and it's, I don't even know what Tool's really considered. It's sort of like industrial, it's sort of metal, I don't know what category it falls into, but I know it's if you want something really hard and that's gonna really test the bass on your headphones, Tool is a good way to go. This one, another old one from the 80s. This is Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, and hadn't heard this in a long time, but listened to this a while back and realized this was also really well recorded and a good sounding CD. This one here, kind of in a different direction. This is Sarah McLaughlin, and one of my favorites actually for reviewing headphones, because I just love her voice. She just has so much texture and detail in her voice, and it's a very good test of headphones, of how good they can reproduce a female voice, which is one of the hardest things for a headphone to do well. That, and I think piano music's also very difficult for a headphone to reproduce in a lifelike real way. But anyway, really like listening. This is Fumbling Towards Ecstasy, and one of my favorites for reviewing headphones. This is back in the 80s. I guess I'm showing my age by my CD collection. This is a band called Book of Love, and this is mostly electronic. It's a lot of synthesizers, electronic music, female vocals, very well recorded though, very detailed and very clean, crisp sound, a lot of great imaging, just instruments coming from everywhere. So that's worth listening to, in my opinion. This one is Black and White by the Bodines, and this is mostly, it's kind of a softer rock, kind of a lot of acoustic instruments in it, and kind of mellow, but very cool and very well recorded. This is another old one from the early 80s, Duran Duran Rio. I think this came out in about 1984. But recorded real well. A lot of electronic instruments in it, good sound, and sounds good on most headphones, really good. Especially I like the song The Chauffeur, one of my favorite songs ever made. Okay, my pal's tipping over. We got some Dire Straits, and I don't think anyone will argue that Dire Straits, that pretty much everything they've ever done has been recorded well. And this is the very best of Dire Straits, and obviously a best of CD, but it's got a lot of stuff from several of their albums, and Dire Straits is one of the best, in my opinion, at recording their material really well. Just super detailed, super clean, super low background noise, outstanding soundstage and imaging, and sounds just out, you know, like you wouldn't believe, and incredible guitar work. So one of my favorites. This is Depeche Mode, a band that's been around since the early 80s, and I think is still doing concerts. If they aren't, they did them until real recently. This is from, I'm not sure when this one came out, late 80s, early 90s. This is music for the masses, and kind of a mixture of some different types of music, but really well recorded, mostly electronic, but just once again, I mean, just crystal clear and a very good recording, and one of my favorites on headphones. This is Genesis. Let me get this on. Kind of having a little problem with glare from the lights. This is We Can't Dance. And once again, a band that just really went out of its way to make sure that everything it did was recorded really well. I mean, this is some pretty old stuff, but most of it's recorded a lot better than a lot of new stuff I'm hearing. This one here, a member of the Headphone Experience just pointed this out the other day and mentioned this, how good this actually sounds. This is the Cowboy Junkies, and this is probably the most famous of their recordings, the Trinity Session. And my understanding, this was done in an old church with a single microphone in the middle of the church with the band around it, I think, and it makes for a really interesting sound stage. You can almost hear that when you listen to it. You can almost hear the instruments surrounding you. They're not out in front of you. They're like you're sitting in the middle with the band all the way around you, and it's a really interesting sound. It's not the cleanest. There is a little bit of background hiss in this, but it's just recorded so well that it's definitely worth it. This is one of my favorites, and I know there's a lot of people out there that would recommend this as, you know, a recording you definitely want to listen to on your headphones. This is a band called the Sugar Cubes, and this is pretty old too, but they're out of, I think they're from Iceland, Reykjavik, Iceland, I believe. And recorded really well, some interesting combination of electronic and acoustic instruments. Can't remember the name of the lead singer. Her voice is a little shrill. If you can get past that, some people really like her voice. Some people find it a bit annoying, but if you like her voice, it's a pretty interesting album or CD. Does sound really good. This is one I hadn't heard in a long time, and I picked up a copy of this just a couple weeks ago and hadn't realized just how good this is recorded. This is Aha from, I don't know, back in the 80s sometime. It's called Hunting High and Low. This is the one with that song. I'm sure you've all heard Take On Me, that song, and I know it was way overplayed on the radio, and you probably got sick of it. sick of that song, but the whole CD is really good. They were not a one-hit band. I don't think they had any other really big hits, so they are kind of considered a one-hit band, but it is a really good CD. The whole thing's worth listening to, and it's recorded exceptionally well, just crystal clear. Just really, really good detail, good sound stage. Really like listening to this one on my headphones. This is REM, this is Automatic for the People, and REM, pretty much everything they've done since their very first album called Murmur, which was on my last video of my recommendations, everything REM does is exceptionally well recorded, and a lot of acoustic instruments, a lot of acoustic guitars, really nice sounding, and this is no exception. Document, just it's one of my favorites to listen to headphones on. This one here is sort of a greatest hit CD. This is Steely Dan, and Steely Dan has a reputation for incredible recordings. I think Aja, that's one of the recordings that is known to be one of the best ever done, just exceptional. And Aja was on my first list, and this has some earlier stuff, some later stuff, and it's just sort of a greatest hits, but really, really love listening to Steely Dan on headphones. I mean, I've never heard a band yet that the cymbals and drums and all that just sound so real. I mean, it's just like you're right there. Something about the way Steely Dan recorded their stuff, and most of that stuff was recorded back in the 70s probably, and I mean it's like you're right there listening to the drums and cymbals and all that stuff. It's incredibly well recorded. This is Smashing Pumpkins. They were a band out of Chicago back in the 80s. This is Siamese Dream. Has a few songs that were pretty big hits, but kind of I don't know how to describe Smashing Pumpkins. They were kind of on the line of grunge, but not really. I don't really know what you call it, but anyway. But they were before like Pearl Jam and some of the grunge bands. So anyway, I listened to this just a while back, and it does sound really good. It's really well recorded. Something a little harder. This is some 9 Inch Nails, and which I would consider to be industrial. This is the Downward Spiral, and Trent Reznor, in my opinion, was sort of a musical genius, and he was just so creative and did so much with his music, and this is no exception. And not everything on this sounds perfect, but other things just jump out at you and they're just so well done. So I do recommend this one for your headphone listening, Downward Spiral by 9 Inch Nails. This is Sinead OConnor, and this is an old one too, but this is I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got. And this has that song on it I'm sure you've all heard, Nothing Compares to You. I know just sort of a classic song that I don't know anyone that, well, there's probably people out there that don't like that song, but a lot of people really do. Well, anyway, it's on this, and this whole CD is recorded really well and does sound really good on headphones. This is hard to find. I knew someone that got this for me way back in the 80s. There's a band, this is called the League Unlimited Orchestra. Okay, well, if you remember a band called the Human League, one of their most popular songs was Don't You Want Me. Well, anyway, what this is like it's extended dance mixes of some of their popular songs. And I never saw it, but I knew a girl that worked in a record store that had heard about it and ordered this for me from like England or something. And I don't know if you can find this one, but it's just really well recorded. And back in the 80s, I had a big car stereo with like 18-inch woofers, and The bass is incredible, and this is what I used to use to demo, show people in my car stereo that used to play at like 120 decibels or something like that. Surprised I can hear anything at all anymore. But anyway, very cool CD and sounds really, really good on headphones. This is Norah Jones, and Norah Jones is another artist that is famous for her recordings. I mean, everything is done on like an audiophile level, except for one CD. She had one called, I think it's called Little Broken Hearts, that I thought that one sounded terrible. I don't know how that happened, but she had one CD that did not sound good at all. But this is Not Too Late, and this is, I think, about her second or third CD, and this one sounds really, really good. A lot of piano music, a lot of string instruments like cellos and things like that. And her voice, she has a beautiful voice in my opinion. Not everyone likes it. Some people think it's a little raspy or something. But anyway, I really like Norah Jones and really like listening to her with headphones. This is David Bowie, and it's called Legacy. It's sort of a greatest hits CD, and David Bowie's another one that was doing really good recordings back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. His stuff was recorded exceptionally well, and still to this day, I mean, I listen to this and just it's just really well done, and his music always sounds good on headphones. And then for something going in the hard direction again, this is industrial. This is a band called Front 242, and if you're not familiar with them, I would say the band that sounds closest to this band is Rammstein. The Rammstein was from, I think, East Berlin. And I think they came from East Berlin before the wall came down. Well, anyway, Front 242 is from Belgium, and similar sounding band, just a real hard industrial band. But Front 242 recorded their stuff really well. It's really hard industrial music that was recorded just better than almost anything I've heard of that type of music. So if you're looking for something hard, and want it recorded really well that's going to make your system sound good, I can really recommend this. This one is called Up Evil, and this is from Front 242. So anyway, I told you in the beginning of this I had like another 25 CDs, but I didn't want this video to be 40 minutes long. So I'll come back in a couple months and do another 25 CDs. So until then, this is William from the Headphone Experience, and I appreciate you watching my videos. Thanks a lot.